of COSATU, Secretary General of the African National Congress, and members of the National Executive Committee who are here, the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, and the Second Deputy Secretary of the SACP, and members of the Politburo of the SACP, leaders of SANCO, leaders of various unions that are here, members of the Central Committee. I greet you all in the name of the African National Congress. I greet you particularly on this important to take place. As the ANC, we salute you as COSATU, and we applaud you on the holding of this Central Committee meeting. We salute you, comrades, because the mere holding of this Central Committee meeting is a clear demonstration that COSATU is well and alive. There are quite a number of doomsayers in our country, unfortunately some in our own ranks, who've held the view that COSATU has become weakened and COSATU's days are numbered in the light of the other federations that are being formed. Many of us do not believe that there is any truth in those statements, because COSATU, in our view, as we see it, continues to be strong. And even as I came in, the first Deputy President of COSATU said, "ICOSATU ileya awiyaziyo, ICOSATU eyakudala." The holding and the importance of your Central Committee meeting is also heightened by the presence of two key leaders in our movement, the Secretary General, with his beard that continues to grow grayer and grayer, largely because of the challenges and the problems that he faces in the African National Congress. Asivisa imvelo ubuhlungu ugwede wabantu. And also the presence of the General Secretary of the SACP, naye ngoqobo lwakhe. Asivisa imvelo ubuhlungu ngoba naye as the General Secretary of the party, he always tries to find solutions in a very difficult and trying environment. Their presence here, comrades, is testimony to the fact that this is a very important Central Committee. It is important, comrades, because it is only COSATU that continues to occupy a central position as the biggest, as the most impactful, as the most successful, as the most revolutionary, as the most dependable, and, do you want me to continue, and the strongest representative of working people in our country. Even if you look around And there are quite a number of pretenders to this throne that COSATU occupies. COSATU, from its inception, has continued, comrades, to be the most revolutionary of trade union federations we've got in our country, the most dependable. And you are still the biggest, and you are still the strongest. That you must believe. You are so because you have continued to champion the interests of workers in our country. Whether they are members of COSATU, affiliates or not, you have always stood for the interests of workers on a universal basis. And you have done so because from inception, you understood the struggles of working people in our country, and you immersed yourself in those struggles, and you represented working people in our country. When we launched COSATU on the 1st of December in 1985, we declared that a giant had risen, and that this giant would crush anyone who stood in its way as it sought to advance the interests of the workers in our country. That is what we said. COSATU indeed, comrades, much as it was a wish that we articulated on the 1st of December 1985, did become that giant. It did become a gigantic organization, and we are pleased to say that you are still a gigantic trade union federation, and we want you to continue playing that role. You have pushed those who have stood in your way out of the way of blocking you advancing the interests of workers, and you started as COSATU, for those who might remember the history, you started doing so right from inception, right from the very first day. Comrade Elijah Baha'i, who was elected president, Comrade Jumo, you might recall, of COSATU in 1985, was given this speech by a number of comrades. Comrades Alec Ewing or Benny Faneroff, Nabanye, Mtlambe no Ino Kotongwane was one of those who wrote the speech. They wrote this speech for Comrade Elijah Baha'i. And he stood up on the podium after he was elected. And I saw him put that speech aside. Wasbeka phansi uMbahi, and he spoke from the heart. And as he stood up, he knew what the struggles of our people were. And he said to P.W. Botha at the time, "Wathi wena P.W. Botha, sikunika 6 months, you must have abolished the past system. What if you don't abolish it in 6 months, we are coming after you, because we are a gigantic COSATU." P.W. Botha wakhathazela. In 6 months, the past laws had been done away with. That was your first victory as COSATU. Now, many people did not realize that as COSATU's victory. But it was essentially COSATU's victory. COSATU had led from the front. But it had led from the front, comrades, because as we formed COSATU, we were linked at the hip with the movement. The African National Congress had played a critical role in the formation of COSATU. Through the discussions and collaborations that we had with our comrades in the ANC in Lusaka, with our comrades in SACTU, yes, with our comrades in the SACP. The whole alliance was intricately involved in the formation of COSATU. So when uMbahi stood up and put the speech aside, he was articulating the aspirations and the views of our people as a whole, and not articulating the views of those who sat in offices and had drafted that speech. Thereafter, COSATU continued to record victory after victory in attaining the very best for working people in our country. And we salute you, comrades, for the tremendous struggles that you have fought and for the great victories that you have achieved on behalf of your members and the working people in our country. You occupy a very unique position as a trade union federation in that much as what you should occupy yourself with should be the interests of your own members, the members of your affiliates. You have, however, sought to represent the interests of all the working people in our country in general. And that is what defines you as a trade union federation, and that is what separates you from many others, because you have the interests of all working people, not only working people, all our people at heart. And we applaud you for that. We also salute you, comrades, because you are the most progressive and the most potent weapon that workers of our country have. We salute you because COSATU, as I said, is the natural and dependable home of the workers of this country. And you are so because you have given the workers of our country a voice. When you were formed in 1985, the workers of our country had many disparate voices. And this voice was consolidated in the COSATU voice that championed the interests of all workers in our country. It is through COSATU that those workers have been able to exercise their power and exercise their power they have. It is through COSATU that they were able to fight for their rights, and you have recorded all these achievements because you are a united federation and your unions are strong, and where they have been weakened, steps have been taken to strengthen those unions. And many people have tended to write you off and said that your unions, a number of your unions, are weak. We have seen evidence of the strengthening and the continued strengthening of COSATU unions. The giant is on the move. It is moving. The other important element that has bound you together is solidarity. In our days, when I was in the NUM, we used to continue chanting the concept of solidarity through the slogan, "An injury to one is an injury to all." We no longer hear that slogan, comrades. Tinabanye who observe from where we are, we no longer hear that slogan. That is an important slogan that underpins solidarity amongst union members, but more importantly, it is this that you have learned in the trenches that you need to spread around in the alliance, the concept of solidarity. The unity and solidarity of COSATU is therefore very paramount. We know from the history of workers' struggles in this country, from our own lived experience, that we are stronger when we are united, and that we are at our weakest when we are divided. We are strong when we exercise solidarity. We are extremely strong when an injury to one worker becomes an injury to all workers. When an injury to one union becomes an injury to all unions. When an injury to our people becomes an injury to all our people. That is what COSATU must take us back to, because you have lived that. It used to be your slogan. It used to be what you lived by. For us to have reached a point where we built COSATU into what it is today, we based it on real life experienced slogans, not just slogans that are written in textbooks, and this is one of them. We know, and our working people know in our country, that discrimination, the exploitation of workers, and injustice will never be defeated until the workers in our country are united and they live out the slogan, an injury to one is an injury to all. For as long as workers are not united, poverty, unemployment, and inequality will remain the defining features of our society. It is therefore imperative that we do work to advance unity and solidarity within COSATU, within its affiliates, and within the alliance as a whole. It is imperative that COSATU comrades and its affiliates reach out to go and organize the unorganized workers in our country. Trade union organization, or the workers who have been organized into trade union, just are below 30%. In other countries, in the Northern Hemisphere, they go up to 60, 70%. Now you can take it that with the near 16 million people who work in our country, we've only got less than 30% of them who are organized in unions. COSATU has a big responsibility to bring all the unorganized workers into COSATU affiliates. That is the task that you have. And COSATU's historic task, therefore, is to ensure that those workers are organized. Yes, there is the view that COSATU has become less and less of an industrial type of federation. It's become more and more of a federation that represents workers who are employed in government structures. That need not be the case, comrades. There are many workers who are still out there who we need to organize. In our days, every organizer's task was to recruit workers into various COSATU affiliates. It did not matter whether you were an NUM organizer in the Free State or whether you were another organizer in another area or Sakau organizer in Witbank. When you met workers who were unorganized, you always sought to have them organized in the union that represented their industry. Now, comrades, this is an important issue because, yes, there is more competition now, and competition never hurts. It is when there is competition that we as COSATU must fold our sleeves and make sure that we reach out to as many workers as we possibly can. I look forward to the day when a COSATU group of organizers will call us, even as the ANC, to go and organize workers together with you. Call on us. Call on the SACP. Let us join you in the trenches. I will be the first volunteer because I used to be a union organizer. I will join you in that. And I will recruit Comrade Blade. I will recruit Gwede Mantashe. Gwede Mantashe also used to be an organizer. No, Comrade Blade also used to be an organizer of some sorts, organizing for the party. Call on us to go out with you on a major campaign to recruit workers into COSATU unions, and we will do it. General Secretary, we make that offer. We make that offer as COSATU, as the ANC, the SACP, and SANCO. We make that offer that call on us. Let us go and hold some huge manifestation with union forms, with whatever else you use, and go and recruit members. We need to heighten the tempo of workers joining trade unions, and COSATU must lead that charge. We want to join in. COSATU, this we would like to do, comrades, to reinforce the fact that COSATU is the home of all workers, not simply because it claims to be so. COSATU is indeed the home of workers because it has demonstrated that it can organize, it can mobilize, it can negotiate, and it can advance the interests of workers more effectively than other federations. Abanye bayazikhulumela nje, bayakhuluma. They go on TVs and say all this. COSATU has done this in the trenches. We know it, we have experienced it, we have felt it. And that is why COSATU is one, how many members now? 2 point something? 2.2 million. Which other federation has 2 million workers? None. Now, unlike many comrades, COSATU indeed has the pedigree, it has the history, it has earned its stripes in the trenches and not in offices. Let us go back to the trenches and organize those workers. Comrades, let me immediately say, maybe a disclaimer. As I'm saying, less than 30% workers have been organized. An immediate disclaimer is, I went to a SATU dinner in Durban, and it became clear as I was being told that SATU, it's not only the biggest trade union in the education field, but it has organized more than 70% of the teachers in our country into SATU as members. Now that I found impressive because there is no union, comrades, other than through the closed shop era, when there used to be closed shop where every worker was forced to join a particular union. There's no other union that has achieved as much as 70% of people joining on a voluntary basis. So therefore, I would say, SATU is the union we should all emulate, unless there is another one that has got beyond 70%. That should be our target. We should target to recruit as many members as possible. Workers have no business being in many other formations other than being in COSATU, because COSATU has a proven record of what it has done and what it has achieved. And COSATU, therefore, is the true parliament of working people in our country. And that is what we must put forward. COSATU as the spear and the ANC as the shield, we fought alongside our people to liberate this country from the tyranny of apartheid. We know that. Together, we have written a democratic constitution which guarantees equal rights for all people and requires that we progressively strive to redress the injustice and the imbalances of the past. Together, we have built strong democratic institutions. We've provided basic infrastructure and services to millions of our people and made important progress in providing skills, jobs, and opportunities to our people. The number of young people who are in our institutions of learning, be they schools, higher education, have burst the seams and way beyond. And it is because of the struggles that we have fought side by side to turn this country around. Now with COSATU, as the spear and the ANC as the shield, we have entered a new era of struggle. And it is an era of fundamental economic transformation and rapid and inclusive sustainable growth. At the center of this effort must be the creation of decent work. Decent work is a concept that is also beginning to fade in our language. And we need to revitalize it, because by chanting the cause of decent work, we were able to make great advances, of beginning to define what this concept of decent work is and what its key components are. We cannot accept a situation where over a third of the working age people in our country remain unemployed. It is our joint responsibility as COSATU, as the ANC, the SACP, and SANCO, indeed, as the alliance as a whole. It is on our shoulders. Our people relied on us to lead them to freedom. They also rely on us to resolve this problem of unemployment in our country. Not only is this problem unsustainable, but it is an affront to the human dignity of the majority of our people. As leaders, comrades, every waking hour must be dedicated to creating jobs for the millions who remain unemployed, and also to seek to improve the wages and conditions of employment of those who were. We know our country is confronted by huge challenges when it comes to the economy, and the challenges are structural and systemic. They run deep, and we need to uproot those problems and find lasting solutions that are going to create jobs and dignity for our people. We must demonstrate through action our bias towards the working class and the poor of our country. It is from the hands of workers, and millions of them in our country, where this economy is able to move forward. It is by the sweat of the brow of workers that the wheels of our economy keeps turning. It is ultimately yourselves as workers in our country that work so hard to produce the wealth of this country, and yet for as long as can be remembered, it is these very working people who have been denied the wealth of this country. It is therefore important that we pay attention to this problem, and we should pay attention to it with cool heads, clear minds, and in doing so we must come up with clear solutions of how we are going to move this country forward and its economy. As we meet here, this important meeting of the CC, we must pledge that we will not rest until workers are able to equally share in the wealth that is generated in our country. It is important that we lock this demand in our minds. Just like we did with the Freedom Charter, we locked the demands and the aspirations articulated in the Freedom Charter and said these freedoms we will want to win within our lifetimes, and working side by side, we determined, our forebears determined, that they shall make sure that these are achieved. And similarly, at this trying moment in the life of our country, in its economy and all that, it is important that we should have it in our heads that our ultimate objective is that our people must truly share in the wealth that is generated in our country, and we must work together to ensure that all that is good that the economy can yield is indeed shared by our people. And as we build new roads, as we build bridges, as we build dams, and all that, we must keep the interests of our people at heart and ask ourselves, are all these things being done primarily to advance the interests of our people? And we must steadily work to ensure that our economic trajectory is the type that will be organic, that will have sufficient legs to be able to benefit our people as a whole from the grassroots level. And it must not be a top-down situation where people who are chanting the slogan of economic transformation are doing it just to advance their own interests. And as part of our efforts, comrades, to transform the economy, we need to be providing opportunities for young people to come into the economy, to come and swell your numbers as members of COSATU. And this is another area where we need to go out, to go and reach out to young people to come and join trade unions. I have a sense that many young people are just lost at sea. They are looking for homes. They are looking for places where they can actively participate. And the trade union is the best training ground for anybody who wants to be active. I cut my teeth in public life issues in the trade union. The NUM, I'm a product of the NUM. The NUM fashioned me to be what I am. And it was through the NUM and the experience I learned there that today I am the type of person that I am. We must therefore focus on young workers, young people, whether they are unemployed or unemployed, make them conscious of the fact that being organized in a trade union is one of the most important things that they can do. Comrades, there is much talk in our country about this concept of radical economic transformation that we need to undertake. And radical economic transformation should really be defined more accurately as radical socio-economic transformation, because we should not leave the social part of it. As we radically transform our economy in ways that are going to advance the interests of our people as a whole, we need to be focusing on its impact on society, on our people, on how it is going to reduce inequality and how it is going to eradicate poverty and how it is going to swell the ranks of the employed in our country. This concept can't simply be a reckless rhetoric and put out as an empty promise that is intended to mask and to hide and to sweep under the carpet the plunder of our resources. Because that, sometimes when you listen to it, you get a sense that there is a hidden agenda that other people have when they chant this whole concept of radical economic transformation. Radical socio-economic transformation must be a process through which we are going to, on an overall basis, address the challenges that our people are facing, yes, in relation to the ownership of the economy, the management of the economy, the control of the economy, but in doing so, address the structural problems that our economy has. And it should not be a process through which we are just going to focus on certain individuals, certain families to line their pockets through using this concept of radical economic transformation. And we will not tempt our people into thinking that complex, intractable problems can easily be resolved through words that sound revolutionary. Because these days, people throw around words that sound revolutionary. And when we try to, cross-reference them and test them, siyabuza, no comrade Blade Nzimande, sithi comrade nina abe party nibona njani. But hey, nathi siyadideka manje. We don't understand these words that are coming out. Comrades, we should not dupe our people and deceive them and make empty promises. The African National Congress-led alliance must be truthful, it must be straight, and when it speaks, it must be speaking about what is attainable and not make empty promises to our people. Our lived experience, comrade, tells us that the task of accelerating growth, creating employment and transforming the economy requires that we should have strategies that are detailed, that are evidence-based, that are properly resourced and effectively coordinated. Our lived experience tells us that we must undertake fundamental transformational strategies to our economy and address the economic circumstances that continue to confront our people as a whole. In all these efforts, COSATU must play a critical role. Yes, indeed, the alliance must continue to play a critical role. It must not just be informed when all these things happen. It must play a critical role. And what I like, what I truly admire and enjoy is that the components of our alliance, principally COSATU and the SACP, have on a number of occasions been very thoughtful. They have come forward with really well thought out proposals. And we urge you, comrades, to continue doing precisely that. Don't hold back. Come forward with well thought out proposals on what we should do at this point in time. We are going to be holding a political council meeting in a few days. And at that political council meeting, clearly we are going to try and clear the dust on many of these things that interfere with what we need to be doing as an alliance. But even at that political council meeting, we do need to have thoroughgoing discussions on the economy, on radical socio-economic transformation, so that as an alliance, we come out with a much clearer view, with a more unified view, so as to be able to lead our people on this concept. That is the challenge that awaits us, possibly in the next few days as we move to that meeting. We need to ensure that all components of the alliance continue playing their role. COSATU, in playing its role, should not be treated just like an appendage. We should not be treating, as the alliance, COSATU as an appendage that just needs to be informed. COSATU needs to be intricately involved in all the things that will be decided by the alliance, and if they will have an impact at government level, yes, COSATU must be part of that discussion. And we must also continue to ensure that all the policies we adopt and the programs we implement effectively do advance the interests of those we represent. But more than that, COSATU and workers in general must be involved not only in conceptualizing the policies, but also in monitoring and making sure that whatever we come up with is implemented. We are undertaking a lot of things in a difficult economic climate. Due in large measure to reduced global demand, our economy has experienced an extended period of slow growth. Public finances are significantly constrained. That is what we need to be aware of, limiting our ability to expand our investment in infrastructure and social support and measures to stimulate economic growth. This is the era that we are living under right now. While we maintain necessary fiscal discipline, which we must, and ensure that the public debt does not rise beyond what we can sustain, we nevertheless continue to direct expenditure towards meeting the needs of the poor in our country. Our efforts to grow the economy have been dealt a big blow by the recent decisions by the rating agencies to downgrade us.